Well, I suppose we should probably get started. It's 3:01. In case you're wondering, my name's Sidon. I've been in TAW for maybe a year and a half or so. And a little bit about myself so you know where I'm coming from. I've been gaming since dial-up, so it's been a while. Uh, I've been in a lot of different guilds and played a lot of different games, and there's drama in every one of them, of course, as we know. I've also been a manager of multiple companies. I own my own business. I've been fortunate enough to hire people and unfortunate enough to fire people. It's definitely not what you want to do, but those things happen. And in those businesses, there's always been a massive, massive amount of drama. And it's something that you face every day, real life and in in-game life. But we'll get started here. First, I'd like to thank EDU for all the editing and hard work they put into the university classes. And a thank you to TAW Lucky. I don't know if he's here or not, but he's letting me use his presentation. The original one was on YouTube, but I don't know. I think we took it down. We're going to have some ground rules for today. So, ground rules for today. First of all, according to Lucky's last one and what we want to start doing in the future is we really want to start making these things more interactive, getting members involved in it, and finding out, your feelings and your opinions. It's important for us to grow as a community and as people. For now, we're going to mute the mics, use your chat. I will ask questions, and if you guys can answer, that'd be great. So keep them short and sweet. And since we're talking about drama, we really need to keep it general. No specifics, no details, no names and past events. Keep it as generic as possible. That way we don't start more drama. There will be times when I want a verbal answer. We're just going to blink the AFK button for that. If you look at the top left corner right underneath the word connections in your TeamSpeak, that will be the away button. You can go ahead and click it a couple of times, and then I'll see if your name pops up, and then yeah, there you go. Mr. Fajita. Got it. So, well, Dr. Fajita, I'm sorry. That way I can know if you want to answer the question. And then when you do, if I'll call you out, just unmute your mic and then answer it. Afterwards, we'll try to do questions and answers. I was talking to Braveheart. We're going to, I think, do it as a group maybe. Well, I'm going to answer the question to the best of my ability. If I can't answer it, I'm going to refer to Braveheart. We'll just make it easy. If you do have a question and we can't get to it, send me an email, and I will respond to you as quickly as possible. Because of the complexity, it gets a little crazy. If you can, just send it to me via email or chat, and then write down any questions you have as you're going along, because it's going to be 20 minutes or so. You never know. All right. So, what do we mean when we are talking about drama? Are we talking about this? Local play at the high school drama class? I don't think so. We're not talking about seeing the series War and Peace with your significant other. As you know, this is what we talk about when we talk about drama in a gaming community. You can probably imagine what's happening here. One person is, of course, raging, and the other person is listening. Emotions are high, people are triggered, everybody's upset, screaming into the computer, screaming into TeamSpeak. But I think the most direct comparison to drama would be a disease. Like a disease, there are certain steps we can take to try to prevent it. If it does occur, there are always certain steps that we can try to fix it or cure it. Keep in mind, if it's a serious disease, cutting it out might be the only solution, but we want to make that an absolute last resort. We don't want to be just randomly kicking people, because if that was the case, we wouldn't be having this meeting right now, because I'm sure most of us have been here. Since this is pertaining to TAW, we're going to try to keep it guild or gaming orientated. How many people have heard about drama and TAW? If you have, just type heard of it in chat. Man, that's a lot. Never in TAW. Great. I like that. How many people have witnessed drama in TAW? Type seen it. Nice. That's quite a few. All right. Now, how many been a part of it? Busted. Yeah, I would type in busted too. I don't think there's a person in here or in TAW that hasn't really heard about it, witnessed it, or even been a part of it. Lastly, how many people think that drama can be eliminated from TAW? I wish the answer was yes, but it's not. There's no way to eliminate drama, ever. You can avoid it, you can diffuse it, and you can mitigate it, or at least mitigate the damage caused by it, but you're never going to completely eliminate it. What is drama? The actual definition of drama is a state, situation, or series of events involving interesting or intense conflict of forces. In TAW or in any other gaming community, drama is more conflict than interesting. There are two main components to drama, and it's always a variation of this. Someone feeling bad or feeling like they've been mistreated, and someone behaving bad or being toxic. And of course, there's always at least two people involved, unless you are maybe schizophrenic and you talk to yourself. I don't know. Then there will be other issues besides that. So, what words come to mind when you think how people might be feeling in a drama situation? Keep in mind that we need to follow the code of ethics, so go ahead and put some words up there. Man, there's a lot of good ones here. I'll read a couple of them. Angry, anxious, attacked, disappointed. Injustice, I like that one. Depressed, that's a big one too. Those are all good, real good. So, what words describe how people involved in drama might act? Immature, irrational, selfish, destructive, aggressive. Very good. Those are all pretty true. Here's some samples of how people would feel. Of course, you've hammered out most of these, but angry, frustrated, envious, disrespected, powerless, hurt. Those are all how people feel when they're part of drama and part of a drama. And that leads to people acting mean, defensive, vengeful, destructive. Keep in mind, people can be self-destructive as well. Your words can be more damaging than you realize. So, whenever you run into a situation like this, you want to be quick to listen and slow to speak and slow to become angry, because that will really help prevent it. So here's the question. Who really wants this? Who here wants to be hurt or abused or mistreated, disrespected, talked down to, or treated as if you're not good enough? I'm going to say no one does. But the million-dollar question is, how does this happen? Well, look at that. The problem is people. So if we could just get rid of everybody, we wouldn't have to worry about any drama ever again. The problem is that's not a viable solution. But every one of us are different. We all have different levels of empathy. There could be cultural differences. Some people are logical thinkers, while other people are emotional thinkers. And there's a slew of variations in between that. The bottom line is we are a large, diversive group, and working together, of course, is the ultimate objective. Quick glance back so we can go over it. People feeling this. People acting like this. There's really nothing else to be said about that. So we know the problem. Now what do we do? We've heard the saying that the best defense is a good offense. Well, the same goes for drama. It's best if you don't wait to fix a problem after it starts, even if, it's harder, of course, to find the problem before it starts, but we'll get to that. As members of TAW, well, better yet, as a human being, I guess, we need to do preventative maintenance, because that's really the best way to stop drama before it starts. And some of the ways of doing that is, number one, be a servant leader. TAW University in March on servant leadership, part of our new member management series, I guess. I'm going to coin that phrase, by the way. But that is definitely the number one thing. It's hard to be a dictator. That doesn't usually work too well with people. So servant leadership is definitely the way to go here at TAW. I mentioned cultural differences earlier, which is the main reason we need to show respect to everyone, be courteous to everyone. There needs to be a feeling of equality. Those are the big things right there, respect and courtesy. If you were to do that to everybody, it really would lower the amount of drama. Usually, not all the time, but most of the time, if you're respectful, you're nice to somebody, you treat them as you want to be treated, they're going to give you the same in return. That's just a fact of life. I don't know many people that when you go up to them, say hello, they tell you to go, jump in the pool. It's just not one of those things. One thing we have to look at, of course, is we're not all the same. We all have a different set of values, practices, traditions, and beliefs. And that's really why we need to follow these two rules, even if you don't agree with it. Respect and courtesy, of course. So now I'd like to hear some ways TAW leadership can create this culture of respect and equality. Anyone can answer. Just blink AFK, and then if I call on you, just unmute your mic if you got something. Red Raven, does he have talk power?
I'd say, well, it's not the solution for everything. I would argue not taking yourself too serious in officer position. For example, while being, of course, following the rules and that sort of stuff. Also, not yeah, building too much on your own power and rather try to communicate with people instead of forcing your order on them.
I like that. So essentially, you're saying get people to do things for you because they want to, not because they're forced to.
Pretty much, yes.
Nice, nice. Anybody else? I saw others, I just didn't. Recon.
One thing that I found that has always worked is to lead directly by example. So if you, like one of the things that we all agree to is supporting, protecting, and upholding the TAW policy and code of ethics. If we, and especially the officers, um, anywhere from, whether you're a fight team leader all the way up to a CC, if you're showing that you support, protect, and uphold the policy and code of ethics, then you're setting the example for your members. So if somebody happens to borderline or breach it, you can just, politely approach them and say, hey, you know, this is what I've noticed, and I'd like to be able to talk to you about it. Be polite in the approach, not coming off all guns ablazing when you go to talk to them.
That's true. That's true. I like that though. That's a big one. Supporting the code of ethics is huge. If I really believe that if you follow the code of ethics, uh, you can eliminate 99% of the drama in anywhere, including in your own life. Anybody else? Robots.
This may not apply to every division, but in my division, it was rooting out the one or two people who were kind of bullying, I guess, a little more shyer members, and trying because it created like a lot of drama.
Yeah, that does. I'm going to get into a little bit of that later. But yeah, that definitely does cause a ton of drama. Bullying is a little bit different than drama, but I'll go over that later as well. Anybody else? We'll do one more. Masser. I'm probably butchering your name right now. Masser, Masser, I guess. Yeah, go ahead.
I'd probably say not kind of giving priority over to staff over kind of normal members. So kind of, I don't know, letting kind of, I don't know, putting priority over staff. So things like letting staff not have to attend events for, for the same reasons that you would normally give someone an AWOL or excusal, but instead saying, you're the SO or you're the CO, it can kind of slide. Instead, kind of going, you're still staff, you should be leading by example, and kind of, still kind of putting foot down. An AWOL is an AWOL.
So holding everybody accountable to the same set of rules and guidelines.
Yep, because that is in the code of ethics.
Exactly. Exactly. Good, good.
Test break. I've got an example.
Oh, go ahead. We'll be the last one though.
As a leader, you have to set an example, and by setting the example and following the code of ethics, and be straight and forward, the possibility of drama is less.
True. Very true. We have 5 pitfalls that we really want to avoid. The first one is avoiding entitlement. Does anybody want to explain what they think entitlement is? Go ahead and blink AFK. Go ahead. T. Kale.
Yeah, TGL. So entitlement is basically what someone tried to describe before as someone sitting in a position, and just because he is the commanding officer, staff officer, or even XO, or because he has been in TOR for 2 years, just because of that, he thinks he basically feels entitled and thinks he is above everyone else, other people that have less experience and stuff. So that's how I would define entitlement.
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. Entitlement is basically the belief that one is inherently deserving of privileges or special treatment. As you said, just because someone has a rank in TAW, a position, donated money, created content, doesn't mean that they are better than anyone else in TAW or they deserve more. We as members of TAW volunteer these things freely. I'm not getting paid to do a presentation, and I don't expect anything in return for doing it. I'm doing it because I want to do it and I want to help everybody out. The next one, no prima donnas. Anyone want to define what a prima donna is? Recon, I'll call you again.
Basically, another word that I think that most of us could kind of see it as is also being like a drama queen. Just because, nobody needs to act like they're better than each other. We're all guys here. We're all, sorry, ladies and gentlemen here, playing the game, being part of the community. There's like nobody's really better than anybody else. We're all equals in one way or another. So nobody needs to really put themselves up on a pedestal and snub their nose down at the other people.
Yeah, it's pretty close. Prima donna is basically a person who finds it difficult to work under direction or as part of a team. They're usually vain people, but it is what it is. TAW is definitely not about an individual. It's about playing together as a team to have fun, mostly, and to complete the objectives in the games we play that we couldn't normally do on our own. I mean, that's why we're here. We're here to play with other people and to enjoy other people's company while we're playing. Quick emotional reactions. It's never good to react to any situation. Does anyone have an example of what someone would do when they are upset at another member in TAW? Just type it in chat. I see rage quit a lot. Yeah, yelling, cursing, even though that's against the code of ethics, but it does happen. Nobody is perfect. We try, but yeah, that's a big one. Some of the things that they might do, some other things besides yelling at them on TS, sending some vile email to them and to the CC and the CIC and who else knows, whatever, just flaming them via email. Or even worse, which I'm sure we've seen, is replies on forum posts. Oh, those are awesome. I'm not just talking about TAW, I'm talking about everywhere. People get upset and they just go on a rant. Things that you want to avoid there, definitely. No emails, no forum posts. We'll do that. I've got a class coming up, I think, maybe closer to the end of the month or beginning of the next month, which will be about effective communication, and we'll go over that as well. Here's a good one. Public scolding. How many people have been scolded by their parents in front of their friends? I mean, if you don't answer, seriously, there's a no? You've got some awesome parents. Maybe it's nowadays it doesn't happen, but when I was 9, it was still the 70s, so yeah. Military family, definitely, yes. Yes. Yeah, how did you feel after that? Probably not so good. But if a TAW member has done something that needs to be addressed, pull them aside in a different channel and talk to them there. It might be a good idea to send them a PM first, so you don't embarrass them by taking them out of channel. People aren't stupid, and they usually know that something's happening when you pull them out of channel and then they suddenly come back into channel after they did something that could be taken the wrong way. So it's usually good, PM them, let them know that what they said wrong, and just assist them first before you start yanking them out of channel. Of course, going back, be courteous and respectful. That's really a big thing. Unclear expectations. What are some ways we can improve communication? Yeah, every member of TAW, we all have a role to play in the community, and there are certain expectations that TAW has for each member. The biggest one is the code of ethics. If you don't really remember what's in the code of ethics, it'd probably be a good thing to review them. But that's an expectation that TAW has for every single member, and there's nothing unclear about it. It's pretty simple. It's just a set of rules and guidelines that were actually just a set of rules that we use to prevent problems in TAW. Those of us that have volunteered for positions, of course, have certain responsibilities to perform in those roles. Those basic duties are laid out in the online classes right now. So if you're a CO, you could look at the class and you can see what your basic responsibilities are. Of course, every division is different, and the TFOs might have a whole slew of other things that you need to take care of as well. But those, need to be explained out, and if it has to be, in writing to make it easier. If you really want to prevent a he said, she said situation when it comes to expectations in the command structure, I would suggest you create a task list. You can use Google Docs and emails to communicate. Even if you talked about it, though, it doesn't mean that it was expressed properly. You might have understood it, but they could have understood it a different way. But if it's in writing and it's agreed on, there's no longer an issue of what was said because it's in writing. So keep good records, and it'll help you out a lot in TAW and in real life. That's really important. Lastly, of course, people are all different, and we cannot expect anyone else to think the same way that we do. It's important that we don't allow someone else's words to define who we are. One thing that I didn't put on this list, but I think it really needs to be mentioned for all TAW members, is to focus on your job and your role in TAW. Cherry has a famous saying for this. Subrat, too, actually, I think it coined it first. Don't look over the fence. I don't know who coined it, doesn't matter, but don't look over the fence into somebody else's division. Don't worry about what other people are or are not doing, and you definitely don't talk to people about it. That's just gossiping and spreading that drama all throughout the entire TAW. We don't need that. We need to focus on our own divisions and not anyone else's. Talking negatively about another division is still being negative, so that's just more drama. Maybe focus on making yourselves better and not just thinking that you're better is always a good way to go. All right, so if you're only listening on TeamSpeak, you're not going to be able to see this little cartoon, but if you can, take a second to read the comic. We had to, of course, bleep out the expletives. I think a lot of us are just like this. We really tend to be more forgiving toward each other when we're face to face, mainly because that person is right in front of you. You're not looking at a computer screen. I'm gonna pick on a game. Don't be upset. It's just a game that I like to play a lot. How many people have played League of Legends? A lot. When you're online with your headphones on, it becomes very easy to flame the guy who's 2-24, feeding the other team, yelling and screaming, telling them to uninstall, telling them they stink, and believe me, they should die, and a slew of things that I can't even repeat. It sounds harsh until you actually play the game, and you really see how toxic some of these people are. And I played with people in TAW before. that toxicity level is not there, at least not that I've seen. So thank goodness for that. But when there's not a person standing there and you're just looking at your computer, you suddenly become invincible and untouchable. And that's when the drama usually starts. But this is the exact time when you should be empathetic toward that player. And it's difficult sometimes, but sometimes saying, "Hey, don't worry, people have bad games," it's not the easiest thing to do. But I tell you what, in the long run, uh, being nice to someone really feels a lot better than freaking out on someone. Uh, in the moment, maybe not so much, but that's where self-discipline comes into play. The latter, which is freaking out, actually increases your stress levels and leaves you upset. So, and that will inherently cause more drama for yourself. You're now a part of drama instead of just blowing it off. All right, so dealing with drama. Before we can address an issue, we really need to know that one exists. If there's some sort of drama going on, as a leader, you might not hear about it. Sometimes members will actually let other members bully them and talk down to them just so they don't get shunned out of the game. I mean, I really want to be part of this squad, and I just have to deal with them hammering on me and telling me that I'm no good. Well, that's not really true. That's not how it works at all. But people will do that. They'll suck it up and they'll take it. From a leadership standpoint, though, uh, anyone can answer, of course. What are some ways that we can find out about ongoing drama in our divisions? Blink AFK. Robots, was that you?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sometimes another officer will tell me stuff when I'm not on, and they happen to be on. So either another officer or sometimes just another member. So when it happened recently was under the auspices I was uncomfortable with this because somebody said this and did this and blah blah blah.
Gotcha. Yeah, keeping the lines of communication open is huge. TCal, are you ready?
Okay, so what I wanted to say, basically finding out about whether drama is happening in your unit, it makes it a lot easier if you actually have a lot of staff that is trained. So down to the lowest fire team leader or DI or something. Because if those guys know about how to not how to deal with it, but how to identify it and stuff, they can tell you directly. So it can send up the chain. And basically the people that have a bit more experience with that can in the end deal with it. So if the case actually happens that people are afraid to officially request something, complain or whatever, you have always your staff to trust on and basically be your eyes and ears in the battalion and can tell you, okay, there might be something happening there is some salt there, I don't know really, but it doesn't feel good. So always have your staff with you and communicate with them so you have kind of the feel your unit, and this is always the best way how to identify it. So that starts the whole process.
Yeah, I like it. So keeping the line of communication open, of course. Meetings, talking to members, encouraging an open door policy. With the open door policy, though, you really have to be a little bit careful because you don't want people just going straight to the DC. You guys will find yourselves in a mess in a hurry. So always stick to the chain of command. But I like it. All right. Before we get into this approach of how we're going to deal with this, let's take a look at what a leader can do. The fan's on high, and Guess what was just thrown in it? As a leader, what do? Do you try to play medic and see if you can fix the situation? Do you need to be a firefighter? Try to knock out the brush fire before it gets out of control? Or maybe do you need to be the peacemaker or peacekeeper and keep everybody separated until everything cools down? Most likely it's going to be a mixture of all three of these things. I would like, before I do this, I'd like to know, like everyone to know, there's a difference between drama and bullying that was mentioned earlier. Even though bullying is often labeled as drama, it's not really the case. I gave the definition of drama before, but just in case, drama is usually an overreaction that turns into an argument. Bullying, on the other hand, is any behavior that is aggressive, unwanted, repetitive, and used to assert power. We're not really going to talk about bullying. I just want to make sure that you know the difference between the two. When a drama situation happens, it's usually just an argument. But if somebody's really treating somebody poorly, that's a different fight completely. Anyway, it's important to have a plan in place within your division on how to deal with drama. If everyone on the leadership, from squad leader to TFO, they're all on the same page, it makes the fight against drama that much more effective and efficient. There's 3 basic steps that we're going to look at here. Number 1 is listen, then we're going to consult, and then act. Step 1, listen. One thing to keep in mind is once you're confronted with a situation involving drama, it's important to move quickly. When I say move quickly, I don't mean just rush in like a bull in a china shop. And, and definitely don't think that it's going to work itself out, because it won't. Drama spreads really quick in a division. Before you know it, people are going to start picking sides, and then there's going to be arguments, and eventually an entire division can be split into 2, and people will leave. Most likely they're going to take a lot of members with them, so you want to try to avoid that. You are trying to assess the situation, and you need to be the mediator, and you have to be impartial. It doesn't matter if your best friend is in the middle of it. You need to be understanding and have empathy for everyone involved. Emotions are going to be high, and you need to be the one that's calm and collective. So don't let their emotions dictate yours. It's not always easy to do, but focus on the person's behavior and not the person themselves. If you can get them to stop the behavior, you most likely stop the problem. You really don't know what that person has gone through today, last week, last month, or last year. They might be going through some hard times and not acting like they normally would. Asking them if everything is okay is not a bad thing. Caring about how people feel is a good attribute. One thing to also remember is that you cannot make everyone happy all the time. Gather perspectives. When you're talking to people involved in drama, they're going to give you their version of the story, of course. Everyone's version is going to be different. Most of the time, they're going to embellish the truth to make it sound like they've been the one wronged. There's usually 3 sides to every story. I'm sure we know. Both people involved, and then somewhere in the middle is the truth. One thing you might want to do is take notes while they are talking. This will definitely help you put the story together later. And it's always good, because then when people say something different later, you say, hey, wait, you said this before. Collecting facts. It's pretty much the easiest part, because facts would be written communication, such as emails, forum posts, TS logs, or any kind of hard evidence. Step 2, consult. Where prudent, get information from people you trust. This would normally mean going up the chain of command and talking to the people above you. You really want an unbiased opinion. So make sure that the people you talk to will give you, a straight up answer. Try avoiding using them, like the members' names at first. You don't want their opinion based on past experience with the member. If they already don't like somebody and you say, well, so and so did it, well, they're already going to have a negative attitude, and they're going to just, it's going to be bad. You want to try to keep names out of it at first, explain the situation, and then see what they have from there. I would avoid bringing it up to leaders in other divisions, though, and friends inside of TAW, because gossip is easily spread again, and that will cause more drama. You don't need TFOs from 3 other divisions knowing what's going on in your division, because then that's just going to spread like wildfire. If that's not the best option, going up the chain of command, then maybe you want to bring it up to maybe your significant other or friends outside of TAW. You can always just say a couple of friends of mine had an issue and I want your opinion. You don't have to say, well, I'm in this gaming community, and you don't have to go that route. You never know, though. They might have had a similar experience that could shed some new light on the subject. So that's not a bad idea at all. No matter who you talk to, be sure to take their advice under consideration. It doesn't mean you have to follow it, but just definitely think about it. One last thing. If an officer below you comes up and asks your opinion on a drama issue they are handling, you should give them your opinion and not try to guide them in a specific direction. Let them make the final decision for themselves. Don't try to be a dictator. It's important for them to learn too. That's also part of servant leadership, is letting you put these guys in place because you thought that they had a certain skill set that would make them a good leader. So now it's time to find out if they're a good leader. And then, of course, you can always review it later. Step 3, act. Before you can really act, you need to identify your personal interest and biases in the situation. Knowing these will help you to set them aside, and you can make a balanced judgment. Just because one of the people involved might be a friend doesn't mean that they're right or entitled even. It's not a personal issue, it's just an issue, and one that you need to make a decision on and take care of. Sometimes you're going to have to do things you might not be comfortable with. This may include disciplining someone. Try to put your emotions aside. Again, you could talk to other people about how to discipline them without letting it hit you so hard. But gather yourself, remain steadfast at all costs. Reprimanding someone for something they did wrong is not an easy thing. It never is. Make sure you've thought of everything. I would personally make sure I have everything in writing, because your decision could set a precedent. I mean, if you were to ban someone from TS for a day because they're swearing at other members and not do it for someone else, now you've got a problem. Especially if they know that person was in there. You've just banned me for a day, but you didn't ban them. So always be sure of what you're doing and make sure that you stay consistent. Now comes the time to act. You decided what needs to be done. You reviewed TAW policy and the Code of Ethics, of course, and it's time to implement the necessary actions in an unemotional and professional manner, which is exactly what we should all be doing. And again, courtesy and respect Those are always the things that you need to put in there. All right, putting it to bed. You need to communicate to everyone involved. Send an email to your superiors informing them of the situation and, of course, the people involved, the results, and any disciplinary action that you're going to take or that needs to be taken, actually. Always make sure it's in writing, please. You theoretically, I mean, not theoretically, but you should be putting a note in a member's officer notes when they do something bad. There's a lot of times that doesn't happen. Officer notes are not just there for, oh, congratulations, you got promoted. You know that it's there for disciplinary reasons too. You have to make sure there's documentation of the incident. The member could transfer to another division, and the same incident can happen there. And how are they going to know that it already happened twice in your division if there's no note saying that it did? That's the reason why we have officer notes. You know, again, it's not just for promotions and words of encouragement. It's to make sure that you have written documentation of problems that they might have had. Now, I would just use them as much as possible. Don't overuse them, and don't write notes about yourself, please. You need to talk to the people directly involved. Explain your position and your decisions. It's important for them to understand what happened and why, so it doesn't happen again. Do not come down on them or belittle them at all. That could be really, really bad and cause more drama. Always stay in control. Be respectful and courteous, of course. Those are famous words that you should all have memorized by the end of this. If at all possible, try to end the conversation on a positive note. I like to use something I call a love sandwich. You start with something good, and then you go over the bad, and then you end with something good. It works really good, especially with a significant other, by the way. Also explain to them that they should not keep talking about this because it's over. There's no reason for them to be running back in channel and then telling all their friends what happened. That's just going to cause more drama. So try to make sure that doesn't happen to the best of your ability. I'm pretty sure that by this time, the rest of your division has already heard something happened and might be curious as to what's going on. A want is not a need. It might be where no one else needs to know. You know, they don't need to know. It's just they want to know. If it's already spread out there and you need to mitigate the damage, it might be a good idea to address the situation then. Not just the people involved, but the issue itself. You know, you don't want to go in there and tell them what, you know, that you reprimanded so and so and this and that. You just want to go over the issue and what happened and what the results could be. You don't want to point fingers and embarrass people further. Explain the situation without using names. Use the code of ethics and TAW policy to keep it as general as possible. Be sure to have other officers, such as your squad leaders and platoon leaders, and so on. Keep an eye open for a bit just to make sure that it's over. Lastly, it might be a good idea to sit down with people above you in the chain of command and actually debrief yourself. Try to see what you learned and what you might do differently next time. Take a good look at the outcome as a whole and then go from there. All right, that's pretty much it. I'm going to, again, thanks to Lucky, big thanks to Lucky and Blue Bear who made this presentation possible. They put in a lot of hard work. Lucky put in a lot of hard work like 6 years ago, though, so it's nothing. It's not new for him. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed the little class that we put together. Hopefully you learned a little bit about how to prevent drama. If you guys have any questions, I'll be around here for like 20 to 30 minutes. And again, what I'm going to do is if you have a question, any questions. We're going to write them all down in a little Word document and post it along with this thing in the YouTube channel, so you guys can see what what the answers are, like a fact page or whatever you want to call it. So that's it. Any questions?